You're a bank.
Yep. Okay, everyone. It is 7 PM, time when we generally start the Board of Appeals hearings. I want to make a couple of comments prior to, with respect to 50 Hunt Road tonight, we're going to open the meeting, take a little bit of testimony, get a high-level presentation, and then continue it because we've engaged counsel, actually Paul Haverty, who's in his own private legal practice and was at one point a member of this board. He will be reviewing all the material associated with the application. The other thing I'll mention is that this is being televised tonight, so be aware of that. And I think depending upon how it goes, we're going to have a hard stop at 9 o'clock tonight. Obviously, we could continue and move on to the next meeting before 9 p.m. So let me start by reading the published legal agenda. The Board of Appeals of the Town of Chelmsford will hold a public hearing on Thursday, May 18th, 2017, at the town offices, 50 Billrica Road, room 204, to hear requests for special permits, variances, and other appeals. So, new public hearings tonight. We're going to start with 26 Highland Avenue. James Elmore is seeking a special permit under 195-8E, paragraph 2, to construct a new 28-foot by 50-foot three-story addition to convert an existing single-family home into a two-family home to a non-conforming structure, the non-conformities being lot area, lot frontage, front setbacks, and it's a corner lot. That will now increase and create it'll now increase non-conformities and create new non-conformities on maximum building coverage, maximum floor area ratio requirements, exceeding 20% square foot increase allowance, and front setbacks. So, Katie, you're familiar, so please give us your name and your address for the record, and you can begin your presentation.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Katie Enright with Howard Stein Hudson, and our office is at 114 Turnpike Road in Chelmsford. I'm here tonight on behalf of Jamie Elmore, who's here with me in the front row. Jamie lives at 26 Highland Ave. This is a picture. It actually doesn't tell you the right location of Highland Ave, of the house. The house is in this location here on the aerial image in North Chelmsford. It's at the corner of John and Highland Street, and also James Street is at the back of it. So it has 3 street frontages. The house is pushed right up into the corner at Highland and John. This is a little proposed site plan showing the property lines and the abutting houses and the existing structure and the proposed structure. Essentially, right now, this is a one-family home here. It's a small home. It's about 1,600 square feet total, not the footprint, total. It's an older home. Mr. Elmore would like to make it into a two-family residence, which is allowed in the RC zoning district. And by doing that, he'd like to build a new structure onto the back of the existing home in the open space that exists there for his family to move into, and then look to find somebody else to essentially live in the front half of the house here. The lot itself, as I said, the existing house, the front of the house faces Highland. The access is actually from John Street here towards the back of the existing structure, and the rest of this area is lawn that slopes up towards James Street in the rear. The Housing Authority building is here at the top of the hill. As part of this, we looked at a couple of different options for Jamie, and the architect, Jim Dzokis, is here with us tonight also. But we looked at, obviously, we'd want to add to the rear of the building. We didn't want to change the street frontage along Highland or take away from the existing structure that's there now. And we needed to work with the topography to get a home in the back. So we wanted to utilize and keep the footprint as small as possible to stay as close to, if not in conformance with the bylaw for building coverage. We're just over building coverage at 22%. The first floor of the proposed addition is essentially some living area, a mudroom, and a couple of garage bays, so a two-car garage. There's no garage on site today. And then the first floor living space and the second floor living space. What we did was sink, the garage is basically at the level of the first floor of the existing home because of the way the land slopes up as you go up John Street. So it would basically look like a garage under from John Street on that side. And then the land would slope up to meet the first floor elevation. So it would look like a two-story home at this upper level. And actually even less than a two-story home, because essentially we're building the second-story living space into the roof line. And I'll let Jim go through the architecture a little bit more, but this is a kind of a picture as to how we're working with the land along John Street. So you can see the profile of the house along John is the highest point is here, kind of in the middle of the slope where the garage is under. And then the second floor itself is built into the roof line, with the first floor of the new structure lining up with the second floor of the existing. This is a picture of the existing house as you look up John Street, so you're seeing the side, and this is the area off the side where the addition would be constructed. The existing lot is just over 10,200 square feet. We have reduced frontage on both James, we have frontage on, John we have frontage on. Highland and James we have also frontage on, but they're smaller than that. Our legal frontage, or our compliant frontage, is actually along this road here. The setback here to the street is 5.5 feet, and the setback to Highland is about 12.7 feet. So we're looking to set back even further with the addition here. We need special permits for two things related to the proposed building. One is building coverage. Again, the building coverage for the area in an RC zone is 20%, and we're proposing 22.7%. So the existing and the proposed floor. And the FAR in this district is 25%, and we're proposing 58%. And that's because that includes that basement level in all cases. So the basement of the existing house is 440 square feet, and it's less than 7 feet tall, so we've been able to remove that from the calculation. But essentially the garage under and the basement that would be buried in the proposed house is counted. We've also counted the entire second floor that's within the roof line, just to be safe. What we did was we looked at the entire area as part of this project. We wanted to make sure, and we really went back and forth with a bunch of different architectural renderings and plans for this site to make it fit a little bit better with the neighborhood itself. All of these lots that are in red are either non-compliant via lot coverage or FAR. So you can see the neighborhood itself. There's a lot of small lots. There's a lot of structures that take up a significant portion of the lot. Our neighbors right to the south are both non-compliant. In either building coverage and or FAR. It's also not unusual to see 2 stories plus in this area. There's a lot of third stories kind of in the roof line if you look around these streets. So the brief section that's 3 stories kind of in the middle of the frontage along John is not, I wouldn't think is very significant along that. Every other view shed is essentially of 2 stories, the view shed from Highland and the view shed from James at the back. So these are all the lots in the area. As you see, there's also a lot of other multifamily structures in the area, so those are also noted on this plan. As part of this, Mr. Elmore went around to all his neighbors, essentially in a radius, that touched this lot and spoke to them and showed them the architectural plans and talked to them about the project. He doesn't have anything in writing from them, but he did speak with all of his abutters, and I believe there's at least one abutter here tonight to talk to the project, but overall he didn't have any adverse conversations with the neighbors that he spoke with. I'm going to turn it over to let Jim talk to you a little bit about the architecture and what's included in the building, and then we'll come back around to questions.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Jim Juzokis, architect with Juzokis Architecture Incorporated, 1147 Main Street in Tewksbury. Really just reiterating what Katie was saying is that we kept the building low profile. We wanted to keep it in character with the neighborhood. We're looking to just continue the Details of the existing home with the asphalt roof, the yellow canary vinyl siding, and the white trim. And keep it in a low-profile design with maximizing the space inside. So with that said, I'd just be happy to address any questions beyond that, but I'll turn it back to Katie, and we'll go from there. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
I believe that's it. I think you have a few letters from some of the different boards speaking to the project. I'm not sure there were too many concerns there. And certainly, we've been working on this project for a while, so please ask questions as to kind of how we might have got to this point. And we're looking forward to hearing from any neighbors that might be here tonight. So that's it.
Okay. Members of the board, anyone have initial questions for the applicant?
I've got a couple.
Go ahead.
On the drawing, it shows that there's a step or must be a retaining wall. It's the drawing that shows the side profile of the house.
Mm-hmm. Right. Here.
Yeah, so the middle one there. So assuming the garage door is 7 feet tall, that means you have a 7-foot grade increase from the bottom of the garage to the first story floors. Is it actually that steep? It doesn't look that steep on the...
So the wall would be that steep. So on our plan, we tried to slope it up a little bit, but what we can do and what we were looking at, instead of, and you can see, basically these stairs would be built into the wall, which is not showing in this profile view. But essentially, this would be a landscape area, and you would kind of work your way up the steps to the front yard.
So
Yep. So it
the
wouldn't just be...
street is actually down at...
The street is like down here,
Okay,
and it comes up along the side of the house. So
Yep.
you wouldn't, the stairs would kind of come down and wrap down
Okay,
to here
all
like
right.
any garage under would for...
all right. That's what I was asking. The grade must
Yeah,
not be at the level of the...
This shows
front
it
door.
this shows it very dramatic and very immediate, but this area would be landscaped essentially up to the front door.
Okay. And then the second question is, it shows that the mean roof down to the average grade is 23 feet. I think in the past, we've always done it to the, the minimum, the invert, if you would. Obviously, it's not 35 feet, but do you know what that is? I mean,
It's actually, the definition is the average grade around the building to the mean grade of a pitched roof. So that's why he's pulling from this grade here.
okay.
But if you're looking from the entire side profile, do you know what the garage elevation to the mean is?
I mean, it shows 31 feet down to average grade from the peak, so I'm guessing it's not 35 even to the peak.
Yeah, no, all the way to this floor, the garage floor.
Probably another 2 feet, 2-3 feet at most.
2 to 3 feet at most, he's thinking.
Oh, okay, so even that mean line would go 25 feet, 26 feet. Okay, thank you.
Right, would certainly still be below the
35,
35.
yeah.
Absolutely.
The peak may even be below the 35. Peak's 31 off average grade. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Katie, may I ask, I'm presuming there isn't one as I look through your package here, is there a topographical map anywhere in here?
There is, and on my site plan, we have the topography that we took
Okay.
from the town topo, so you can see that the lot grade goes up, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 feet essentially along the side of the lot.
You can't read the numbers.
Yeah.
That's why I'm pulling out this one. It's hard. That's one problem with having the, so Highland is.
Oh, I see them, 138.
Highland, the corner of Highland and John is 134, and up at James, we're at 146 plus.
Wow.
So it is a drop across, which is why we were able to work with the topography a little bit more.
Okay, thank you. Jackie? No?
Not yet.
Nancy?
I'm good also, thanks.
You? Okay, let me read the letters. I don't see a letter from the fire department in here, which is a bit unusual. So, police department has no concerns. Their comments are the Division of Special Services has reviewed the site plans from the town of Chelmsford Zoning Board of Appeals for 26 Highland Ave, seeking a special permit request under 195-8E, paragraph 2. Upon careful review of the plans, I do not see any increased traffic or safety issues that would occur as a result of these plans. Based on a review of the plans, the Division of Special Services does not have an issue with this project moving forward. If you have any questions or concerns, please let me know. Mark Dupel, the building inspector, has given us a letter. He states he has no concerns, but see attached letter. With regards to the above-mentioned, I offer the following. The amount of relief requested from requirements seems excessive. Engineering has no concerns. Board of Health has no concerns. And it looks like Conservation has no concerns. At this point, I'm going to go into the audience and ask if there is anyone that wishes to speak either in favor or in opposition to this application. Please come forward, give us your name and your address, and then tell us what's on your mind.
My name is Rick Robage. I'm at 20 Highland Ave. I'm directly across John Street. I don't have any problems with the project. It's in the future. I've been there 30 years, and I plan on staying there. Is there any way that this property, because now it's a large building, can be converted from more than a two-family to a three- or four-family if owners down the road, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from now, come to another zoning board and say, we have a large property here. The building behind us has 3 apartments. Can we turn our 2 apartments, which are very large now, into 3 or 4?
The answer is yes, if they get approval from this board.
So to follow up on that question, is there a way that this special permit can be written that that's not allowed in the future? That this property can never be more than a two-family? Like when you do an in-law apartment and it has to convert back to a single-family home?
You can deed restrict it. You can have that written into the decision.
Okay.
That was my only question.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. I'll look for a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
All right, Charlie has made a motion. Second, anyone have a second?
Ooh, Nancy.
I'll second.
Okay. It's motion and second. Further discussion on closing? All those in favor? Aye. Presumably we want to take this up at this point.
I know Mark Dupel said it's kind of large, but under the circumstances and the houses around it, I'd like to make a motion to approve the special permit for 26 Highland Ave.
With the deed
With
restriction?
the deed restriction, how's that? And all the letters read into the...
Into the record?
The deed restriction being no more than a two-family?
Yes.
So noted.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I hear?
I just have a question on the deed restriction.
Sure.
What kind of power does the owner have to get that deed restriction removed? Does he have to come before a board again?
I don't think you can get,
You can? You can't?
it's an RC zone, there's only 2 families. It wouldn't be allowed, it would be a use variance, and I don't think it would be allowed
Okay.
to change anything.
All right.
There's 3-family right behind it, though, right?
And I think
If it
that's what the
pre-existed.
abutter's concern is that,
It would go to a 3
Yeah.
or a 4.
Yeah, but if you're saying it wouldn't be allowed, but there is one right behind it.
They would have had to go
Could've
for a
been
use
pre-zoned.
variance.
Okay.
It could have been,
it's unique to that particular address.
Yeah, and-
Okay.
And I mean, three units versus 2 very large units, and then a third very large unit is different than just 3 units as well. So,
All right, thank you. I just wanted to understand what the restriction that we're placing on the deed.
Okay, a motion's been made. Do I have a second?
I'll second Charlie's motion.
Thanks.
further discussion? Call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, or do we have 5? You got 1 opposition?
Yes. I don't know if I'm
Unopposed.
voting or not, but.
I think Nancy's voting,
Okay.
Yeah,
Jackie,
1, 2, 3, so you,
myself, and...
okay,
So
so
then,
it was unanimous.
so then it was unanimous.
Right.
I can note it in the minutes that you opposed it.
there you go.
Okay, thank you. You're all set. Okay, next is 50 Hunt Road application comprehensive permit. Application for a comprehensive permit under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40B, for the property located at 50 Hunt Road, Emmanuel Farms LLC, consisting of a total of 84 units in 2 3-story buildings with 24 units and 1 4-story building with 36 units, and associated site improvements. Take it away.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Katie Enright with Howard Stein Hudson at 114 Turnpike Road in Chelmsford. I'm here tonight on behalf of Emmanuel Farms LLC with Beaver Brook Crossing, which is an 84-unit apartment project proposed under Chapter 40B at the location of 50 Hunt Road in Chelmsford, Mass. As you stated earlier, Len, we're without a couple members of the board tonight. We're without counsel. Our team is actually without counsel also. So we'd like to do a high-level overview of the project, be productive tonight, get as much feedback as we can by the board that is sitting, and then any abutters that are here tonight for the project. So with that being said, Mr. Chuck Emanuel is here tonight, and also Jim Jazokis, the project architect, along with myself, the project engineer. I'd like to bring you through a little bit of the project. This is an aerial image of the site. Most of you have known this forever as being a site that's been worked and reworked with piles of material essentially all over it. There's an existing house on Hun Road here, the White House, with the garage here behind it. That is proposed to stay. That is not essentially part of the development project. That will be cut out onto its own lot and remain. So the view shed along Hunt, as it relates to this home, is staying intact. The rest of the site is where the project will sit. There's 2 large garages here now, and then, as I said before, lots of piles of material throughout. The wetlands wraps around the rear of the site, along also with a brook, Beaver Brook. We've already been to the Conservation Commission and have received an order of resource area delineation from them to set the wetland line and also the mean annual high water associated with the river, so that we're comfortable with the development area that we're showing you tonight. That line itself was peer reviewed by Oxbow Associates as part of that project to check the flagging that had been previously done by Hancock Associates. So the area of the project essentially has been set. This is the site itself, so the site is quite large. The White House sits here on Hunt Road, and I'm showing it in white because it's not essentially something that I'm looking to talk about really as part of the proposal. The site is 10 acres, so you can see it extends quite far down Littleton Road and then all the way back to the brook here, and this is High Street here. As Len stated earlier, there's 3 main buildings. The center building is proposed to be 4 stories. That building would have 36 units in it, and then each of the side flanking buildings would be 3 stories with 24 units in each for the 84 units total. These small little structures out here are garage bays. Essentially, a lot of these new apartment developments offer some sort of garage space. This does not have garages under the building, so we're looking to do some exterior garages for storage and for vehicles. What we feel that does is it also provides a backdrop for us to landscape to actually change the view shed a little bit as you come down Littleton Road and kind of hide the structures as you come down. We also have a bike shed area at the back here. We're awfully close to the bike path. It's right down Hunt if you take a left onto High, the bike path crosses generally on the other side of the river behind the site, so we're looking to provide a bike shed for patrons or residents of this dwelling and be able to come down the sidewalk to the corner of Hunt and High and then take a quick little ride up the street to jump on the bike path. The proposed layout of the project was proposed with parking in mind. Obviously, we wanted parking in close proximity to each of these buildings. We're proposing a 1.71 ratio, which is typical of apartment dwellings. With this ratio, there's a significant amount of 2 bedrooms in this development. We're looking at 69 2-bedrooms and 9 3-bedrooms. 3 bedrooms are required to be 10% of the project by the comprehensive permit law. So we're proposing parking to be situated throughout the project. There's 144 spaces on the project total. And again, that's a 1.71 ratio as 1.71 parking spaces per unit. In the layout of these parking areas, we made sure that the Chelmsford ladder truck was able to drive around the property. So you can see some of these radiuses have been opened up quite a bit, so a fire truck can move throughout the property. And I had a few meetings with Dan Kay down in Fire to discuss the turning radiuses, locations of hydrants, and his comfort with the amount of access that he has to each of these buildings. Around the entire site, we've proposed a pedestrian loop. So there's a paved pedestrian loop that comes around the entire project for a walking loop outside the project that connects you to this walkway that also goes along Hunt Road. I'm going to zoom into the site a little bit better so you can see things a little bit better here. The site grading, we're looking at mainly trying to keep, obviously, with the wetlands at the back here as close as possible. There's only a couple feet of fill that we're looking to do kind of at the back edges of these buildings, and we're looking to maintain all of the local bylaw requirements. So the 25 no disturb, 50 no build, or 50 no structure, 30 no pavement. So this project meets all of those local requirements. The biggest area of earth removal is up in this area where we're cutting into the hillside a little bit here to make this area flat along the fronts of the building. Where this is not considered a redevelopment, we're capturing all the stormwater and treating the entire site. So we're looking at doing an underground system under the parking lots to treat and infiltrate the water into the ground. So we're reducing the amount of water that's leaving this site from the pre-development condition and also providing significant amount of recharge on site. Lighting for the site has been designed throughout the parking lot to be downlit, to be dark sky compliant, and also to be a neutral color, so less than 4,000 K, as what the planning board has asked us to do on other projects to keep the color neutral. The lighting is done here by both pole lights and wall packs. Landscaping for the site is as shown here, and I have some pictures a little bit later on, and Lorraine Black, who did this landscape plan, will be here at another meeting in the future to go through every plant and explain to you what they are, but she's proposed quite a few beautiful trees, both deciduous and conifers throughout, and also a significant array of different shrubs throughout the project. Most of the single-family residential abutters are actually on the other side of Hunt Road and/or on the other side of the river here. So really, we're screening. This is the intersection of Hunt and Littleton here. So we're using these garages and earth material and berming to essentially hide the view shed from Littleton Road as you come down Littleton Road, and then there's plantings throughout the project. I'm going to turn it over to Jim to talk to you a little bit about the project architecture.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Jim Jazokis, project architect with Jazokis Architecture Incorporated, 1147 Main Street in Tewksbury. Basically, what we're looking to do is to keep these buildings a little more, I'd say, non-uniform. We don't want to make a giant yellow blobs that sometimes you see these developments become. So that we brought in a lot of different toned down colors. We're looking at vinyl siding with belly bands to break up the facades, bringing in stone here and there just to liven it up. The roofs are more of a mansard style. The 4-story is really the 4th story of the 4-story is the beginning of the mansard for that building, so it keeps it down. The garages up front, as Katie was saying, to help comfort the view into the complex, but keeping the sound and keeping everything in line with the residential feel. There's a lot of ins and outs of this building to break up the facade as well, so we keep in line with that New England residential feel. So, let's see. And I believe that's just about it. I mean, it's a 40B project, and we're looking for approval, so I'd be happy to address any concerns that the board members have or any of the abutters. So, thank you.
Okay.
I just wanted to add one thing. I did not speak to the traffic tonight. We have done a full traffic study. It's just being wrapped up currently. We wanted to make sure we had that done for the board. And so in the future, we'll have our traffic engineer also, and we will be submitting that traffic study within the next week or so for review. So there has been a full traffic study done of this project also. So with that, it is a very high-level review. We're not getting into too much of the nitty-gritties of the project. Would really love as much feedback as we could possibly get tonight from both the board and the abutters. So that'll conclude our presentation for tonight.
So Katie, there are 84 units?
84 units, correct.
How many of them are going to be affordable?
So we are proposing this to be 50% AMI, so 20% of them would be affordable.
Okay. And these are going to be rentals,
Correct,
the entire project?
the entire project.
Is Mr. Emanuel going to retain ownership and manage the rentals?
What was the breakdown of two-bedroom, three-bedroom again? I know you said it in the
Yeah, it's
beginning.
mostly two bedrooms, so
Yeah.
there's 6 1s, 69 2s, and 9 3s.
6 one-bedroom,
69.
69 twos.
Two bedrooms and 9 3
threes.
bedrooms.
Thank you.
How do the affordable units mix into that breakdown? Are they all twos or ones or?
No, they essentially have to fall into line with the percentages of each, so it'll be an equal percentage of each.
split up among the 3 buildings?
Correct. They can't, yes, they can be. Mm.
Jackie?
Are you gonna have a management office on site? Is it going to be it's gonna be included in one of the buildings? Okay. And did you say how many units were in, I know it's a fourth floor, but did you say how many were in?
36 are in the middle building and then 24 in each flanking building.
And are the multiple bedroom sizes by building, or are they just mixed within?
They mixed or?
They are mixed.
The 144 parking spaces, do those include the garages or are those separate?
Yes, that includes the garages.
And how many garage spaces are there? total?
17.
How are those apportioned out?
So they would be something that the rent would be done through the rental office, so that would be an add-on.
More rent.
Yeah, I bet a hell of a waiting list.
I know you're going to have someone else talk to some of the plantings, but it looks like you're putting some screening in front of the garages to try
Right.
and shield them from the
So
field of view as well.
Right, the idea was to do some berming along the road and then plant along the berm. So even though the buildings are set back, the majority of the buildings are set back pretty far from Littleton Road.
Yeah.
You would kind of look as you come down Littleton Road and see an earthen berm with plants on it, rather than see the rear of the garages, which would screen the buildings and screen
Yeah.
the parking lot from view.
How about snow removal?
So there are significant areas on site. Obviously, we can't push it all to the back. That wouldn't be allowed. So there are snow removal areas on site, and I can document those out, but some of the snow, certainly some of it will need to be piled up around the site, and then any additional snow would need to be brought off-site.
Is it just the one entrance there in the top middle?
Yes, and that's directly aligned from the property across the street, where there's another parking lot associated with that commercial building. One thing I didn't touch on, if I may, just briefly, was the playground area
Yeah, I was
to the
gonna ask.
side. I know, I missed that. The playground area was something that was discussed when we brought the project into the town planning staff early in this project as something that would be beneficial to the neighborhood and our community to provide a community park area. I know there's been some concern. This area was intended as part of this project to be broken out and essentially donated to the town, and the town, it was our impression that the town wanted to do something with it, but obviously that's part of this discussion moving forward. Anything that would be done there would have to be fully designed, obviously, and compliant with all the concerns of fire, police, et cetera, which are all valid concerns. So nothing has been designed in this corner as of yet. It was an area that was reserved based on those initial conversations, and would like to continue to have those with both the board and fire, police, et cetera, as the design continues, as to whether or not that's something that the town still wants, or whether or not it becomes part of this project in a capacity as developed by Emmanuel Farms. So
We may get into it in the letters, but I'm presuming you're going to fence in the playground area?
right, the idea was that we weren't going to do anything in that area at all, but it obviously would need to be fenced, right?
And you mentioned some excavation, that's the high point on the property?
Mm-hmm.
So you can try to bring it down to a more consistent level?
This corner, right, this corner
Yeah.
here would come down from Littleton Road into the site.
Did you ever explore having like an entrance and an exit at all? Like having the exit further down so that way it's not so close to the intersection?
Further down Littleton
Yeah.
Road? No, it was more pertinent to line it up with the other parking lot directly across the way. There's good sight lines in both directions here, and we're far enough away from the intersection here for that. So it was more making sure that it was lined up directly across. But I could certainly have the traffic engineer talk a little bit more to why this makes sense.
Do you know if the traffic included exploring putting a light there, since it's now,
At this entrance,
Yeah.
no, this is certainly not enough traffic to warrant
even
another
including the
light.
people across the street?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Because it's in very close proximity to the light at Hunt.
No, there's a significant amount of traffic that would need to come out of both of these parking lots to be
Okay.
able to do that.
Yep.
And he can certainly talk to, when Mike Santos is here, he can certainly talk to traffic warrants too.
Yeah, I have a couple things. Katie, I was looking at the whole site. You think an entrance or an exit on Hunt Road would make any difference? Would that be easier to take a left on Littleton Road?
It could be. I mean, we're not providing any through traffic. This is really just the residents of this development coming in and out of the project site. We did originally kind of look at having an emergency exit onto Hunt,
Okay.
but never sending the residents in and out through Hunt. But that could certainly be something that's discussed.
And the other thing, I was
Dick.
thinking about the bike path.
Mhm.
And I know to get to the bike path, you have to walk down streets with no sidewalks and everything. I wonder if it would be possible to have a connection to the bike path through the wetlands. Is that
It's
possible?
really, really far.
It is that far?
It is. I mean, this is just, the bike path itself is over here. We stood there and talked about it and thought about it and thought, well, maybe we could bridge it at a small, like, this is, you'd see, you know, it's 100 feet plus to get across the wetlands in some of these areas. So I can show you distances on the map for the next meeting, but
Okay.
when we spoke with DPW, it made more sense, and there's room to do it, to basically bring the walk to the corner of Hunt and High, and then it's a very small section with the houses pretty close to the road along High, and it's a short section before you get to the
Oh,
bike
okay,
path.
so you are gonna do sidewalks down?
We are going to do sidewalks down Hunt to the corner of Hunt and High where the culvert comes under the road. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
small, that's a very tight street.
Yeah.
on the side.
Dutton's right up the street.
I'm good for now, Lynn, thank you.
Okay. Nancy, anything?
Just, has the schooling been discussed or looked into at all, just because it's such a large project and there's a lot of 2-bedrooms and 3-bedrooms?
Well, we can certainly speak to the number of children that we would expect as part of this, as part of studies that have been done previously. And certainly, too, as this project's been in planning now for a while, so certainly it's been taken into account, too, when looking at the schools and the sizes of the schools.
Evan actually gave a presentation about these developments just the other day.
Oh, did
Yeah, to the school department.
And we can make that a question specific for Paul Haverty as well. You take a minute or two to read the letters that are in the file. So the police department, the Division of Special Services has reviewed the application for a comprehensive permit under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40B, for 50 Hunt Road from the Town of Chelmsford Board of Appeals. After reviewing the plans, the Chelmsford Police Department would make several recommendations. The first recommendation would be to either relocate the playground area or significantly fortify the area around the playground. Due to the significant amount of traffic on Littleton Road, including a significant amount of heavier commercial vehicles, the location of this playground creates a safety issue. We've also had significant accidents at the intersection, and in some instances, heavy commercial vehicles have ended on the property where the playground would be located. In addition, this area is currently a 45-mile-per-hour zone, which poses additional safety concerns for the playground. The second recommendation would be the installation of a fence around the playground that would not make the playground visible from the roadway. This would avoid the motoring public from being distracted by the children on the playground, and also prevent children from throwing or chasing objects into the roadway. Massachusetts Department of Transportation District 4 should also be notified and brought into the discussion due to the fact the additional traffic will be entering and exiting onto Route 10, which is considered a state roadway. If you have any questions or concerns, please let me know. Lieutenant Colin Spence. Those are good points. The DPW. Dear members, this office has reviewed the submitted plans by Howard Stein Hudson Associates, consisting of 14 sheets dated April 27, 2017, and a stormwater management report dated April 2017 for the above referenced site. Based on our review of the submitted documents, we have the following comments. This department shall be notified when work on site is to commence in order to arrange for inspections. Any revision to the drainage design shall be submitted and approved by this office. A site as-built plan should be provided upon completion of the work on site. The as-built plan shall be from a ground survey and submitted in AutoCAD and paper form. 4, the applicant shall follow the erosion and sediment control plan as described in the report. 5, confirmatory testing shall be performed in the area of the infiltration area per stormwater management guidelines. Testing shall be witnessed by the Chelmsford DPW Engineering Division. All unsuitable material, if any, discovered in the excavations for the infiltration system shall be removed and disposed of in accordance with state and local regulations. 6, The applicant shall be forever responsible to follow the stormwater operation and maintenance plan as shown in the stormwater report. Copies of the annual inspection forms shall be submitted to this office. 7, the applicant will be responsible for all applicable sewer permit, capacity impact, and privileges fees. A calculation of said fees can be done when final unit numbers are determined. This project will require a full NPDES stormwater pollution prevention plan. A copy of the application and documents shall be forwarded to this office upon completion. 9, a road opening permit is required from the Chelmsford DPW Highway Division for work within the Hunt Road and High Street right-of-ways. 10, additional permits will be needed from the Mass Department of Transportation, MassDOT, for work in the Littleton Road right-of-way. 11, trench permits shall be filed as necessary per 520 CMR 14.00, Chapter 82A. 12, snow removal will be the responsibility of the applicant. 13, if a peer review is required, the Chelmsford DPW Engineering Division requests that the review be coordinated with our staff. 14, the design engineer is in receipt of more technical design comments. Okay? If you have any questions, please contact this office. Christina Papadopoulos, Town Engineer. This is from the Board of Health. Attached letter, dear board members, please be advised that this proposed comprehensive permit is a concern to the Board of Health. The 84 units with multiple bedrooms is showing a playground being located in the front northwest corner of a densely developed site. The proximity to Littleton Road makes this location a safety issue for the children and all involved. Some form of corrective action should be taken. Richard Day, Director. Central Water, see attached letter. The Chelmsford Water District has some concerns with the routing of the water line. A representative for the proposed project should contact the Chelmsford Water District. The Board of Water Commissioners, upon approval of the proposed project, would request the following 3 items to be part of your order of conditions. Water is for domestic use only, 1. 2, water-saving devices should be utilized throughout the facility. 3, xeriscape landscaping should be implemented to minimize water usage. Richard Tansino, Chelmsford Water District. Fire prevention. Members of the board, water supply appears to be adequate. The required pressure and flow shall be confirmed by a current water flow test performed proximate to the site with all calculations submitted to this department for review and approval. Hydrant locations shown on this plan are adequate. The fire department requires a hydrant within 60 feet of each fire department connections and a hydrant within 500 feet of each building for manual firefighting operations. Hydrants and fire protection equipment shall be free from landscaping obstructions. Access for firefighting apparatus and emergency vehicles shown on the plan is adequate. All fire lanes shall be marked with approved pavement markings and/or approved signage. Fire access roads and turnarounds shall be designed with swept path analysis using the AASHTO BUS 45 turning template or an equivalent template approved by this office. Fire apparatus access shall be designed by a registered engineer to withstand the weight of fire apparatus. Snow storage shall not obstruct or impede fire access roads, or turnarounds. All exits shall have sidewalks to allow a continuous path from the exit that lead to a public way. The dumpster location shown on this plan is adequate. An automatic sprinkler system conforming to the NFPA 13 and a fire alarm system conforming to NFPA 72 shall be required in all apartment buildings. Both systems shall be monitored by a UL Underwriters Laboratories approved central station monitoring service. The developer shall install a fire alarm system with heat detectors in the automobile garages with an approved visual alerting device on the outside of these buildings. These systems, if practical, shall report to one of the apartment buildings' fire alarm system. Building number 2 shall contain a standpipe system that is compliant with NFPA 14. Buildings number 1 and buildings number 3 shall contain a standpipe system if any portion of the building will be more than 200 feet from the nearest point of fire department vehicle access. All components and fire protection systems must comply with state building code and Chelmsford Fire Department requirements. The applicant and their contractors should contact the Fire Prevention Office for local requirements prior to plan submittal. A Knox box keyed to Chelmsford Fire Department specifications shall be installed for each building. 3 sets of sprinkler and fire alarm plans along with the supporting documentation must be submitted to the Fire Prevention Office for review prior to the approval of building plans. All equipment related to fire safety shall be located at the discretion of the Chelmsford Fire Department. The applicant must submit an application to the Town of Chelmsford E911 Committee for address and unit numbering through its coordinator, Town Clerk Honorina Maloney. This office would approve of this plan with these conditions and changes, and I ask the board to make this letter a part of their approval process. Daniel J. Kotsoufis, Captain, Chelmsford Fire Department. Mark Dupel, the building inspector, has no concerns. This is from Conservation at regularly scheduled Conservation Commission meeting on April 25, 2017. The commission voted unanimously to approve a peer review report and issue an order or resource area delineation for an ANRAD filed in early 2017. The applicant will be filing a notice of intent for the proposed project. This from the Community Development Director, Evan Belansky. General, the site is identified as a priority site in the 2017 Affordable Housing Plan per plan production, and as such is deemed to be an appropriate location for this type of proposal. 2, it should be noted that within the last year, the planning board was requested by the property owner to rezone it from single-family to commercial. Neighborhood concerns / opposition were expressed, and the planning board did not indicate its support. Some members of the planning board expressed a preference that multifamily would be a desirable option rather than a single family. Project specific. Now those 2 that I just read were in fact general comments. These are project specific. 1, consideration should be given to reducing the number of 2 bedrooms and increasing the number of 1 bedrooms. 2, the proposed 1.71 parking ratio is reasonable based upon similar type projects and approvals. Ideally, a ratio of 1.75 would be achieved as this would also provide for some additional visitor spaces. 3, efforts should be made to increase the proposed front yard setback for buildings 1 and 3 from the proposed 24 feet. In particular, the driveway and associated sidewalk adjacent to Building 1 are located on and in close proximity of the front yard property line. This is not an ideal design condition and could be improved aesthetically. Consideration may be given to shortening Building 1 so that additional physical separation can be achieved from the front yard property line. 4, I would encourage the board to proceed with the town's engineering division conducting the technical review of the stormwater drainage system rather than pursuing a peer review. This is based upon this site not having unique, challenging site characteristics such as steep slopes. 5, the Conservation Commission has already peer-reviewed the wetland resource delineations as part of their ANRAD approval. Based upon this, I do not believe additional peer review of the wetlands resources is warranted. It appears that the project complies with the local wetlands bylaw setbacks for buildings, pavement, and disturbance. 6, I would encourage the board to focus its attention on the aesthetics such as architecture and landscaping. For example, vinyl siding is proposed, and while the landscape plan is conceptual in nature at this stage, it appears to be quite lacking related to quantity and quality, particularly from the street perspective. In addition, efforts could be made to reduce the overall heights of the buildings while still maintaining the number of proposed floors. 7, in the event the number of units is at issue, I would suggest the following options be explored. A, explore number 1 and number 3 above. 1 was the discussion about 2 bedrooms versus, 1 bedroom versus 2 bedroom units. 3 was the front yard setbacks, particularly buildings 1 and 3. 8, the town is supportive and expressed an interest in owning/maintaining the proposed playground, as this part of town is underserved with this type of open space amenity. Associated details related to design, features, safety can be worked out. 9, traffic. Route 110 is state-owned controlled. I do not believe that a peer review is warranted. I would suggest that the town's interest be directed at upgrading the existing technology for the signalized intersection and exploring granite curbing. Okay, that was a sizable amount of information. Does it trigger any more questions from the board?
Can we ask the applicant?
Yes.
Based on, some of the discussions on the playground and the setbacks for buildings 1 and 3s, would the applicant consider moving the playground to the rear of the property and possibly pushing 1 and 3 back from the street? I know you'd have to move everything around. You might have to push 1
Right,
over
and
into the corner.
1 and 3 are specifically set back at the wetland buffer limits. So we would
Okay.
have to encroach into the local bylaw to do
Or
that.
turn them at an angle.
Or turn them at an angle,
Yeah.
correct.
Because that would give you can get away from the street and maybe maintain the buffer. It wouldn't be a square site.
Right. And the playground would most likely would go away, because I looked at that option, and when you start to fan it out,
Yeah,
the development gets wider, and
Yeah.
the green space becomes interior space, but it's not in one block. But certainly we'll have continued discussions about the idea of the playground at that corner.
it sounds like there's more negative feedback than positive because of its
Correct.
location.
I agree.
Yeah. And it would be nice to have it, though.
May I speak just briefly to the DPW letter, just to update you on one other thing?
Sure.
Regarding the technical review and/or peer review, Christina, I've been in conversations with Christina Papadopoulos, your town engineer. When she refers to technical comments, that's a punch list that she typically gives me with all of the engineering jargon offline. What I've asked her to do is put that into if you agree to have them peer review it as your town DPW, I would ask that she put that technical review in basically sentence form so that it could be distributed and handed in to the zoning board of appeals, so you could watch our interactions back and forth.
Okay, so Colleen, can you reach out to
I certainly
Christina?
can.
Copy myself,
You think we should
Brian.
get her to come to the meeting? Lynn?
Let's see what the initial response is. So copy me and Brian and Katie, whoever else on the development team.
Thank you.
I had another question, and it just goes to Mr. Belansky's comment about the height of the buildings. So the buildings have like, almost like two roof lines. One of them, the top one, if you will, the highest elevation. Is that necessary? I mean, that looks like there's at least 7 or 8 feet of extra roof that, maybe it would force you to make a flat roof up there, and you don't want that.
We could essentially get it down to a one pitch, but that is not ideal at all. Yeah, then you end up
'Cause
with
you've got
the
all these
snow loads and
dormers,
everything. The shallower the pitch, the more issues you have with,
Water
the blizzard of
infiltration.
'78 or the blizzard of 2000, the snowfalls we had in 2011. That's, you like to get that stuff off as quick as possible without sending guys up there to shovel it off.
Right.
So
And
right now
is-
it's shown as a 6 pitch. So
Why are all 3 buildings the same height, though there's 3 stories and 4
we
stories?
could potentially bring the other 2 down to a mansard style, so it would essentially look like a 2-story with a mansard, same as the middle building.
Oh, okay. Are all 3 buildings at the same grade? And is that grade level with the street?
Couple feet.
It's a little bit lower. Could it go lower? Because of the brook behind it? Okay. You just need some more pumps.
We gotta get the drainage in the ground between the brook, between the water elevation.
I get it. Yep, understood. Just if they were up 4 feet on a berm, we could pick up 4 feet by dropping them, but, okay, thank you.
Is the playground going to be level with the street in the plans right now?
Yeah, that pretty much is level. It's a little bit lower, but not lower. And as I said before, the playground itself is not, I haven't touched the corner. I basically reserved that area and graded up to it, but nothing's been done to look at the design any further.
Perhaps you could speak to the police comments about traffic and safety. Now, you say you have a traffic study that is being,
There will be a full traffic study that will be submitted within the next week for review.
okay. I think it's, although I think it was requested that we not engage outside peer review, I think I might want to do that on traffic and safety.
And another question you mentioned on the mansard roof on the 4-story, in essence, the 4th story is built into the roof. If you did that to the other 2 buildings, they would effectively
Come down as
come
well.
down.
Yes.
So the only thing that would be,
Go stick up. is-
would be the 4-story.
Right, right.
That might be something in between, where we could lower the 2 shorter buildings a little bit, because they have like double roofs to get away from that peak, and the other ones, if it was a mansard style, we'd pick up a few feet on the, just a thought.
Okay.
Thank you.
Where would, if the playground were to come to fruition, where would the public park? And would it be in that, like, how are they being invited on?
Right, so that would be part of the parcel, so that would be something that wouldn't be part of the project. I mean, they could park, we're removing a significant amount of pavement here. There could be a driveway where that pavement is today, where the driveway is today, and a little parking lot here, not connected to the project per se, for the public. But again, the idea was that this would be turned over to the town for the town to do what they would like with it, not have it be part of the project per se. So those are some details we really need to work out. That's just a thought that the parking could be here off of Hunt, because there's an existing driveway and pavement there today.
Just had a question about the actual parking for the development. Is, the visitor parking was raised in the letters, and then also the garage spaces are being counted in that 1.71 that you said is typical. And there's just the thought that people might use that for storage instead of parking, so then you're down even more spaces. So is there room for more anywhere?
Oh, certainly. There's certainly room for more parking. The idea is that the studies that have been done for multifamily apartment buildings and what ITE tells us is required for the thousands of projects that they've studied is that this is an accurate ratio of what's required for the amount of pavement on site rather than paving a bunch of spaces that would be unused. So I think what Evan's letter had asked us to do is maybe look at bringing it to a 1.75 ratio, which would add a few spaces. Certainly in any other development, whether it be a garage space that's in a larger garage under a building or a garage space on a single family or multifamily lot has always been included previously in the parking calculations, but we could explore adding more.
Is the area taken up by garage spaces the same as the area by the paved spaces? Like,
They're a tiny bit bigger. So they're bigger so that you could put like a bicycle in there, you could put some storage containers in there. So you would fit a car in there and then you could fit storage around the outside. So they're very typical. They have them at Princeton and Westford. And there's some other developments up in Nashua that have done the same thing. Kind of gives people an alternative to parking their parking their car outside.
so it's not like the 17 garage spaces could turn into 25
No.
pavement spaces?
No. No, because they're also stacked, so they're stacked behind a space, so somebody would pull in to the garage space and you would be able to park behind it also. So say that somebody, Unit 10 or whatever, owned one of the garage spaces, Unit 10 would therefore also park behind the Unit 10 garage space, as to not block the door for anyone else.
But besides that, none of the other spaces are assigned to
Correct.
resident? Okay.
And I could provide the board too with the figures that produce that 1.7 ratio so that you understand where that figure comes from too, for the record.
1.75 would only be a couple of spaces, right?
Right.
If we wanted to go to that.
Right.
Looks like the site could handle that easily.
Yep. Yeah, it was it's a balancing act between
Yeah.
the amount of impervious surfaces you're providing and draining for. So,
The 1.7 ratio is for spaces to apartments regardless of the size of the apartments, or do they factor in the?
they factor in the different types of bedroom styles. So they look at the different types of bedroom styles and come up with a range, and essentially that 1.7 is kind of in the middle.
Okay.
So,
And to Evan's point, if we were to increase the ratio of two bedrooms,
one bedroom.
ones to twos,
Right, the
that ratio would go up automatically.
Right.
So that might be another way to do it. Just out of curiosity, how are you handling the water runoff? You said you're going to treat it.
So
Is there actually a facility going to be on site, or is it
no,
all
it's treated,
done
it's
with
drainage,
filtration?
It's best management practices as part of stormwater management. So we're looking at doing deep sump-putted catch basins with what's technology called the silt prison that gets put inside it, which takes a lot of the material out right at the catch basin, and it's easy to clean. Then that water is carried through pipes to an underground infiltration system. So we're looking at perforated pipe and stone, which is set a couple feet above the water table to then filter the water also and recharge it into the ground. So.
And those filters that are in the catch basins, would the management company be responsible for
Yes, and
maintaining
there's-
those?
Yep, and there's an operation maintenance plan, which
Yep.
the town engineer refers to, that's basically says that the operator is the owner, and it tells them what they need to do and how many times they need to do it per year. The Conservation Commission will also have it within their order of conditions to make sure that those forms are checked and/or distributed to them. every year to make sure that it's being done too.
Like they did on Turnpike.
Yeah, Turnpike had it. Yeah.
Let me go into the audience. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak either in favor or in opposition
It could be any
to
creek.
this application? Please come forward, give us your name and your address and your comments.
Hi, I'm Elaine McDonald. I live on Reed Road. I have lots of concerns, and none of which I've heard addressed. For one thing, I haven't heard the impact, no one's said anything about LRTA. There's 2 bus stops. One is right adjacent to the play yard. And I would think during construction, those bus stops would be kaput.
You're saying there's a bus stop at the corner of Hunt and Littleton?
Yes. And there's one, it's.
On that side of the street or the other side?
Can I point?
Sure.
Essentially, it's here,
Okay,
and there's one down the road, more or less here.
okay. Would the traffic study pick that up? Do you know?
The traffic study will talk about the bus route and the fact that there is transportation in here.
Okay. I would agree.
Right, yeah, no, we're not.
No, how can a bus stop?
Well, you can see where the white area is on front of the road. There's
Right.
an area there that's not touched.
So this is the pavement
But-
right up here. So there's
And-
the bus stop would stay.
Guys, chill out. Once built, yes, the bus stop would probably work out just fine. I'm not asking about it being built, I'm asking about construction.
A bus site would be maintained.
How?
We would carve out the space for it to be there,
No,
period.
I gotta
Well,
talk,
during-
I'm sorry, I'm Polish, I talk with my hands. How do you build here without disturbing here?
You can't build into the right-of-way, and the right-of-way extends past the edge of the pavement. So,
Here's the road, right?
yeah,
Not where your thumb is though, from up higher, so where those dots are above that
Okay,
would be the actual pavement.
right there.
right, there's the road. Right, there's the road. This is roughly where the bus is. At
So
a time-
you're concerned that the bus stop is gonna go away
The
during
bus stop will
construction?
functionally go away.
Well,
I mean, there might be a sign on a pole, but if the bus driver can't stop, he's not going to.
I think you're in the area of speculation
No, I'm just.
at this
no.
point.
And I would think the bus route would work, and maybe they'd move it down the road 10 feet or something temporarily and move it back.
I mean, the thing
But
is,
the construction's gonna be on the parcel
the
itself.
previous bus stop is here, and if you're coming from where I'm living, where my adult son, who does not drive, takes the bus, that's all poison ivy. So he can't walk that way safely without coming home with poison ivy. And I have real concerns. I mean, I'm happy to hear that there's going to be some sidewalks eventually, but I'm concerned about the construction because he takes it to go to school.
So there'll be no construction on the west side of this map, of this plan? No. On Hunt Road,
But the bus stops approximately here. And
right. The
and
bus
y'all-
stop is not going away, it's not gonna be functionally obsolete.
But no one's talked to the LRTA. You're just,
Oh, we
you
can-
you said I was speculating? You're speculating as well.
Well, bus stops don't just poof, disappear. I mean, the LRTA has to be accommodated, and they will be.
My son's been regularly riding the bus for a couple of years now, and
I'm
what
certain,
it says on the schedule and what actually happens is slightly different.
well, I can't speak to
No,
that.
but that's what I'm saying. No one's talked to the LRTA, so I have great concerns about that.
Okay,
Is that no one's talked, no one's reached out to them,
and you know that how?
because she's said, this is who I talked to. So I'm pretty sure she wouldn't leave
Wait a
anything out.
minute, Wait a minute,
A very brief overview. And
Yeah.
the MTA has been contacted by my traffic engineer to
But the-
discuss bus stops, and I will send them this plan before the next meeting and have them comment, but they are not located on private property. They are located in the right of way, which we
That's
are
correct.
not going into. We cannot affect their bus stop.
So when you're done with your discussions with the LRTA, please copy Elaine and provide her with the details. But the bus stop's not going away.
Since we're recorded tonight, Katie should probably come up.
Sorry?
We're recorded tonight, so Katie should probably come up.
Sure. Katie, why don't you just go over on the record?
So they can get you on the mic. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Before the next meeting, we'll be in touch with the LRTA regarding the site plan itself, not necessarily its stops and/or schedule, but make sure they're aware of the construction that we will be doing adjacent to these stops and make sure they have no comment. Or if they were to provide comment, they can.
Right. And so this is the very beginning of the process, where the object is to bring out questions, concerns, points like yours, but I can tell you that the bus stop is not going to vanish into thin air. And if there's access there for your son or anybody else, that access will be maintained.
Again, I just want to express my concerns that
Thank you.
I think, that the bus stop might disappear, and/or access to the bus stop may functionally disappear during the construction. Then I'm expressing that now because, a construction process like this would be a good year and a half.
Any further comments?
When I
You
saw...
said at the beginning that you said you had a number of concerns.
Yes, I did. I think the placement of the current, where they would have the play area, really, my children are now teenagers, but I would never have gone to a park that's on a busy corner like that. So I think that...
Yeah, and hopefully you got the sense that that is very much in discussion at this point.
And-
Nothing's etched in stone.
I'm a household of 5 and a 3-bedroom house. I got 3 cars, and I have a 16-year-old who's counting the days until he can get one. So I just find that 1.7, especially here in suburbia, maybe some of these, I understand the organization that does the counting of the cars, maybe also more urban, where a percentage of people, a husband and wife might actually only own one car. Everyone in Chelmsford, every adult practically owns a car. So I know there's other people who want to speak, so I'll let they're going to probably express
So
something.
bus stop, playground, and number of cars.
Number of cars, I think that'll be, the water filtration system. I was heartened to hear that that was going to be addressed because I am a town meeting rep, and we spent a long time at town meeting discussing the whole stormwater treatment and et cetera. What happens, what remediations if, let's say, somebody, a butter on High, suddenly, who's had a dry basement for 20 years, suddenly has a wet basement? What do they do then? I'm just curious. Unfortunately, I don't live in High, but...
Again, you're in the area of speculation.
But-
So with respect to probably our very next meeting on this request, we're going to address traffic, environmental, and stormwater. The applicant is going to be asked to come prepared to discuss those things. There are pretty involved standards for stormwater. We just went through it on another project up on Turnpike, so you'll get an opportunity to hear what the stormwater study does and says. But I would, I'm hearing your concerns, and we certainly can't speculate on things that we don't know about.
Also, there was, one of y'all had asked about impact on the schools, and the young lady answered nebulously. There wasn't like, we expect 80 kids, we expect 60 kids, we expect this much divided over the 3 levels of schooling. So that's, again, being a town meeting rep, again, long meetings about the additional, schools are getting trailers for schooling, and so that's an expense because there was on Chelmsford News, there was a lively discussion, both pro and con for this particular project, and someone was saying, oh, well, more taxes, woo. Except I can't, without knowing what the impact from school, with how many school children are expected, whatever we gain in taxes we lose, educating kids.
This is perhaps a good time for me to address a couple of things relative to 40B projects. Chelmsford has effectively been in the vanguard of 40B projects throughout. The time following sewerage of the town, which made many sites and many properties eligible to become 40B project sites.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but on this lively discussion, someone said something that made no sense to me, and I think you guys might have the answer. Someone said, there's 83 units, 84 units?
They're requesting 84, yes.
There's 84 units, and someone said, well, how many of them are going to be affordable? And someone said, 17. And I said, well, how does that help us 40B? It's going to chase our tails. And another person says, oh, all of them count. How do all of them count?
It's rental.
Because they're rentals. So let me go back to my comments.
What?
If I may.
Yeah.
40B is mandated by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We have very little control over 40B projects. We do have some control. The buck does stop here. Despite what the Board of Selectmen may say, and this is for the benefit of all board members, despite what the Board of Selectmen may say, despite what the Planning Board might say, what town meeting reps might say, this board has the ultimate authority to approve or deny 40B projects. We're the only one that has that authority. Now, within that authority, we have significant limitations. We're in a silo. There are only certain things that we can base our decisions on. Massachusetts has taken the local control out of our hands. So what we're trying to do here is make sure that we wind up with a project that is as palatable and as helpful can be to the town. But make no mistake about it, this is the only board in town that has the ability to approve or deny. We go through this, we've been in the vanguard. I don't know how many projects there are in Chelmsford. There's a ton of them. They've all come through this board. So I appreciate your concerns, your questions. The hearing is not going to be closed tonight. We're going to continue the hearing. We're going to get outside counsel who has a tremendous amount of experience on 40Bs. In fact, he sat on this board. And we're going to engage all of the town's resources to discuss this project and come away with what we think makes the most sense.
I was one of the abutters at the planning meeting that was referenced earlier, multi-unit housing. What was discussed is, attached condo townhomes, groupings of 2 or 3 families that are like.
I'm sure there were many things discussed
No,
at
but
that
what I'm
meeting.
saying is, no one was saying 4-story apartments. They were talking condos and, or what one person called a condo house. It's an individual house, but it's very close.
Okay.
So that's just not. Nobody there who said apartments.
Thank you. I'd like to get on to see if there's anyone else that wishes to speak. Please come forward.
Elaine Consalvo, 171 Hunt Road. I'm a Precinct 5 representative, and for full disclosure, I'm also a member of the Finance Committee. I'm here acting on behalf of my neighbors. I have heard from many of the neighbors, and they're expressing concerns mainly about 3 points. Number 1, the wetlands. Number 2, traffic. Number 3, schools. The wetlands, they feel, particularly people that live on the High Street side, they feel that the runoff from that property will basically cause them to have flooded basements. So they feel it will be an impact, direct impact to the cost of the property. And plus different repairs or whatever the outcome could be from flooded basements. Also, the traffic is a definite problem. Lately, particularly in the past year, there have been many families moving in to Hunt Road, particularly towards, from the middle to the end. And we feel that this project will make traffic on Hunt Road, which is one of the most used cut-throughs in town, that will definitely increase the pattern of traffic on Hunt Road and also High Street. Also, the schools, Byam School is one of the it has the most students, and the ratio of teacher to students is greater than the other schools, elementary schools in Chelmsford. Now, we just bought $7 million in modular classrooms to accommodate the impact of new housing in town and increases in student population. So I really don't think it would be a good idea to find a way to add additional student population. I'm not saying we shouldn't have this project. I just think that we should keep in mind the number of students that it could have. So those are essentially my main points. And I have a question concerning the wetlands. Did you say that the Conservation Commission had essentially given, I'm not very technical in the wetlands area, so you have to forgive me, but
Let me
did they-
reread the letter, the correspondence from the
Okay.
Conservation Commission. At a regularly scheduled Conservation Commission meeting on April 25th, 2017, the Commission voted unanimously to approve a peer review report and issue an order or order of resource area delineation for an ANRAD filed in early '27. The applicant will be filing a notice of intent for the proposed project.
So,
What this means is
Good.
that there's going to be an outsider who has expertise in conservation matters to review these plans.
okay.
And the Conservation Commission will then decide whether they're in favor or opposed to it.
Okay, so they have not taken a determination as yet.
Not to the best of my knowledge.
Okay. Now, is this outsider going to be perhaps from the DEP?
No, it'll probably be maybe Katie has the answer, but it probably will be an outside firm, a private firm.
So just to answer that more clearly, we went before the Conservation Commission with a plan that shows where the wetland line is and where the mean annual high water for the brook is. And they hired a peer review consultant already who reviewed our line. We made some minor modifications to it, and they issued a finding that said our wetland line as shown on these plans is correct. Just the wetland line. So once we have a project, soon we will submit to them our engineering plans for what's called a notice of intent. So that will cover the work we do within the buffer zones related to the wetland and the riverfront area. So that's the next step. So they've only agreed so far that the way we show the wetlands is correct on our plans. Now we have to show them what we're doing within the buffer zones, and they'll review the peer review done by your town engineer, and they'll also review the impacts to the wetlands based on the project at that time. So there'll be another set of public hearings associated with that also.
Does conservation look at the animals too?
As what?
Does conservation look at the turtles and animals and all that?
Yes, they do.
So,
Please continue.
no, my only other point is that I think personally it would be a good idea, and I don't know if the petitioners are amenable to this, but I think it would be a really good idea to have an open line to the neighborhood, because this is going to be significantly affecting all the neighbors in that area, including people to the end of Hunt Road and other side streets. And I think that maybe meeting with the neighbors would not be a bad idea.
I'm sure they'll take that under advisement, and usually they do.
Okay, thank you.
I am Jeff Raffaello. I'm on the corner of High and Hunt. I have concerns as far as the road coming out. Let me point out. Is this gonna be gated?
I
I
don't
mean,
think,
That's
this
not a
project is off of Littleton Road. I'd like to keep it off of Littleton Road. I live on the corner down here. So I don't want to be seeing ambulances and fire trucks coming in and out of there if possible.
I don't think they're proposing an entrance.
Well, I heard someone say maybe the playground, maybe putting a parking lot. This playground is for this complex, correct?
No.
So the public can use it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So where would the public be parking if the project's big? I mean, parking's an issue. So, where do people, not that they're gonna, but if they do, where are they gonna park? At the Chinese chapel over here?
No. No, that whole playground and parking issue is still very much in its infancy.
So now the sidewalk, you got a sidewalk. I live here, so I look at that stop sign. That's a rolling stop. Nobody stops there.
Right,
Nobody stops there.
right.
So, the kid's gonna cross onto my front yard and come down, or is there gonna be a bridge over the brook to come down to the rail trail? These cars fly down, right?
That's a good question.
No lights on the bike path to slow cars down. So now you got kids coming down, they're either gonna have to go across the waterway or cross that street. Like I said, that's a rolling stop, that's not a stop sign. So, that's an issue.
What was your name again? I'm sorry.
Jeff.
Jeff.
Yellow.
Jeff Raffaello. Thank you.
Now, I know there's gonna be some trees removed back here, and more added. Are these balconies, are they accessible? Is there gonna be laundry hanging on the balconies?
There's no outside.
Okay.
Probably not.
Probably not.
I'm guessing washer and dryer are still
The
universally
wetlands,
accepted.
Now that wetlands, like somebody had said about, flooding basements. I've had water issues in my basement. Like I said. So if that brook is, the wetlands is deviated any which way, I'll get back up the water. So I have a concern with that. I have a concern with the balconies, the fire exit, nuisance calls, ambulances, medical emergencies, If the project, basically, the frontage is on Littleton Road, I'd like to see it stay there.
Okay,
That's it.
thank you.
Yep. Now, can those also be added, more 40Bs added on that?
Onto this site?
On that project, say later on the apartment market tanks. Can there be section 8? Can there be more?
You can't deny a Section 8.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? I don't want this whole complex later on down the road to turn into a Kensington,
Well,
which is 100% 40B, correct?
40B and Section 8 are different.
Kensington's all 40B, right?
Are you talking about affordable units
I'm not
versus
talking,
market
I'm talking
rent?
Chelmsford Woods. I don't want this project turning into a Chelmsford Woods.
I don't think Chelmsford
Chelmsford-
Woods is all affordable.
Is that not the housing authority?
No, that's owned by the state, that's a Chelmsford Housing Authority
That's Chelmsford
project.
Housing Authority.
And there's a second project coming through
Now there's another
now.
building going up here as well, I heard.
There's a second phase that's going in now,
Yeah.
right?
So to answer your question,
I don't want to see the percentage. I don't want to see this thing turned into. Yeah, I don't want to see it turn into a nightmare
okay,
for the residents. They got to realize too that there's residents behind this building. Not like Kensington, you got 495, you got a 4-story building. They're proposing a 4-story building here, but there's a residential neighborhood behind it, High Street. You know, that's my concern. I mean, I'm not concerned about cleaning the site. I think the site needs to be cleaned.
yeah, okay,
That's
thank
it.
you. Yeah,
That's perfect. So Kathy Tuberty, I live on High Street, down at the other end. I'm actually Precinct 1. I'm a Precinct 1 town meeting rep. A couple points. First, and this is from feedback in my neighborhood. So we're at the other end by 27, but we rolling stop periodically through that corner. Guilty. First question is, are any of these units going to be handicap accessible units?
You have to direct this to the board, please.
Okay. All right. Are any of these units going to be handicap accessible units?
I think they said yes.
And what percent will be?
By law, the majority of them have to be quickly turned around to wheelchair accessible. But yeah, the large majority of them will be accessible.
So that means
So-
the door frames will be wide enough? and the
Yes,
showers will
36
be
inch,
dry enough?
exactly,
Okay,
and the
okay.
bathrooms will be sized up. Basically, the rule is you're not allowed to build something that cannot be quickly turned over into a handicap accessible, wheelchair accessible unit, so,
Okay,
yes.
Then the next question would be, of the 170, whatever, or the 1.7, the 144 parking spots, how many of those are handicap accessible? Or handicap spots? I'm assuming that's a mandated number.
It is. It's a mandated number, and what we've done.
Sorry.
I don't get yelled at. Yes, they're the ones that it's mandated by law as to which ones need to be handicap accessible. And what I've done is basically, let me see if it's easier to see here. I've basically positioned them in front of each of the buildings so that they're spread out throughout the project site.
Oh, you can see the little hash
Yep,
marks.
yep. So there's 2 on each side of those hash marks in front of each building, and that would be what is required by law.
So there's 6 handicap spots?
I believe there's 6
Out of
handicap
144 spots?
Mhm.
Okay. So,
But you're following the building codes, right?
no, I
Yeah.
understand that.
Correct.
I'm just thinking if you have, I don't know. One of the things that I know that we always work on at town meeting is making sure from an ADA perspective that we're accommodating folks. And given that you have the discussion of potentially going to more one-bedrooms, there might need to be more handicap spots, in which case there will be less parking. But I think if you have one-bedrooms, it's okay, because you would need less cars for one-bedrooms than you would for two-bedrooms. I think it works out, but I'm just asking that you think about that. Mental math, forgive me, I was writing down, but one of the big concerns, and in our neighborhood, we have, because there's been so much building on 110, and you've heard this already, but Byam has lived through, my eldest, who's now out of college, had 34 students in her 4th grade class, because that was when, I think it was Kensington got built. But, so we've actually had to do real-time redistricting because the school couldn't handle it. So the basic math, I was assuming that in a 2-bedroom, you could have 1 child, simple math, and in a 3-bedroom, you would have 2 children. So if you had the 69 2-bedrooms and the 9 3-bedrooms, that would be 87 children moving into the neighborhood. If you had 2 kids per room, then you would have 174 kids being dumped into the school system. Granted, it's over 3 schools, assuming that you go to the middle school and the high school, but that, if a third of them go, a third of 180 is still 60 more kids at Byam would be really, really tough. And I know, Colleen, that you talked about the fact that there's something going on. I don't think Byam could handle 60 more kids that aren't planned already. So just something to think about. Question for you, on the Littleton side, is there going to be, on the Littleton side, is there going to be a sidewalk? Because you talk about putting it on the Hunt side, but is there also going to be one on the Little, because for these people walking here, you haven't talked about that.
I think the answer is yes.
Yes, there's a section that goes all around the entire project, and then there's a section that runs along here that brings you out to the sidewalk
Okay.
to Hunt too.
And I think this is the last one of my notes. No, there's 2 more, sorry. One, well, we talked about a lot of the water issues. High Street floods, and you can speak to this. Right down there at the dip, High Street floods all the time. Whenever almost every spring, it pops up and floods. So I know that you're doing this study, but it really is critical because High Street floods down there every year. And then the last thing is that now could you go to that other map that you put in before? So there's all this new construction down here that they just put in.
Right.
From Applewood or whatever they were. So there's some significantly large homes. Not all of them have sold. I think that part of the problem with selling those is that they're concerned about what's going in here. I haven't talked to the people, I've looked at the houses, they're kind of cool, really nice. Huh, yeah, we've checked them out, but I, because there's only one family that's been sold to there, when you go and look at abutters, I would encourage you to reach to the builder and have him or them have an opportunity to give you feedback. You may have already done that, I have no idea.
There are approximately 11,000 housing units in the town. And that's everything. That's single-family, that's multifamilies, that's apartments, that's condominiums. There are less than 30 for sale in the entire town. Those properties are going to sell.
Maybe not for as much as he wants, but all I'm saying is, I don't know
Supply and
if you guys
demand.
have contacted them, because they're a builder, so they're an owner, but they're not, I don't know how that
We
counts.
contact all the abutters, whoever's listed on the.
As the owner?
And
Okay.
it's Walter Erickson, and yes, he's been.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that they had an opportunity to be involved in this.
Yep.
That was it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? So I'm going to reiterate that we have a hard stop at 9 o'clock tonight. So please keep your, if you could, please keep your comments to fresh material, new material.
Lawrence McDonald, 15 Reed Road.
Yep.
I share a lot of the concerns, but the plot plan of the project, thank you so much, that looks completely paved, but it's the scope of the project. It's not the project itself, it's the scope of the project that concerns me. It's a neighborhood of single-family homes. That 4-story building would dwarf everything around it. 150 cars and all of the other concerns we've heard. My concern about the wetlands is probably a point that hasn't been made, if I may point.
Sure.
There's often for sale signs in front of these parcels of the wetlands that concerns me, that if someone would put a for sale sign up in front of the wetlands, that the wetlands are very precious. The water table at town meeting, we heard all about the runoff and all of that, but it's the scope. It feels like an urban density, and it feels like it's going to dwarf the neighborhood around it, and thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Dan LeBlanc, 176 High Street. I echo a lot of the same concerns they have for the park and for the traffic, specifically pedestrian traffic, if they're going to be coming to the bike trail. It is a nightmare on weekends with cars coming down that road. It's going to happen eventually. At some point, somebody's going to hit down there, but there needs to have some action down there, and the increased traffic is not going to help. My biggest concern has to do with the hours of construction. I'm not sure if this is the right time to address this.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yep.
We have had a lot of activity with heavy equipment prior to the hours of 7 o'clock in the morning, as early as 3:17 in the morning. Okay.
I can hear them from my house as well.
Okay. I'm sure you probably have heard some of the complaints. But I do have some concerns around that, and the last concern I have has to do with the mansard roof. I just find that's not in keeping with the neighborhoods. I can't recall any mansard roofs in the area, either commercial or residential.
The hotel in the center.
In the center, that's probably about a mile and a half away.
The Wilson block, yes.
Yeah, I think that's the only mansard I can think of outside of North Chelmsford.
I think there are a few more, but
Maybe down
not
on
close to this
4,
site.
yeah. It just doesn't seem like it's in keeping with the neighborhood, and I think that's something that should be considered as well.
Okay,
And I think that's all I have.
thank you.
Look at his last name.
I'm Christopher David. I live on the corner of High and Hunt, actually next to Jeff. I'm on the High Street side. Again, echoing concerns of everyone else. I think pretty much that's all been said. I'm not concerned about the treatment of the water. I am concerned about the amount of flow runoff. The other thing I guess that wasn't talked about and is probably already addressed by the Conservation Board is the location of the dumpsters. I know there has to be a certain setback from wetlands for the dumpsters. Concerned about them being on the wetland side of things. Traditionally, and at least in the apartment complexes I've lived in, dumpsters are always near the front entrance, so that way it's easier access for the trucks and everything to get them and get out of there. So also for all the abutters along the high street facing those dumpsters, well then like the heavy equipment noise. Then we have to deal with the noise of the trucks coming to pick up the dumpsters, depending on what that is, and it would probably be before 7 in the morning. I mean, who knows? But again, just the overall size and scope. I know it used to be three-story buildings. I'm sure one of them was changed to 4-story to keep the number of units and probably fit within the bounds of the wetlands. I'm just concerned again about that size and scope. Unlike some other the units, this one is surrounded by single-family homes, facing and staring at the units. So tall buildings obviously doesn't seem to be quite as in keeping with that particular area versus the other ones that are across the street or down the road, surrounded by like units or commercial units. So that's about it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Members of the board? Comments?
I'm going to ask one about traffic.
Yeah, Katie's going to get back up and give us some more
Sure.
input.
Do you know if the traffic, so I assume the traffic would look at the intersection of Hunt and Littleton.
Yes.
Do you know if they would go all the way down and pick up Hunt and High?
I'll have to double check and see what they did.
And
But
if
right.
not, is that something we might be able to ask?
Right.
I know it's,
I believe we did. I believe
Okay.
we did look at that one
because
also.
one of the
Correct.
citizens had a concern, and it'd be nice to know what
He's
traffic
right.
thinks the
Right.
impact is.
He's right, it is a rolling stop.
Yeah. And they may be able to
Could be a
tell that
cop
only
there.
10 cars every day will go that way.
It's a little-known
Exactly.
Massachusetts
There-
statute.
Their study will have counted cars. It'll have everything of a traditional traffic study for the area looked at, and he'll be able to give you everything in detail at the next meeting.
I know the other one we were talking about, because we had this come up at another site. How about endangered species on the site?
Mm-hmm.
Since it's abuts wetlands, we've run into turtles before.
Right, it's not been flagged for anything, and
Okay.
Oxbow Associates, who also specializes in habitat,
Yeah.
was the one who reviewed the wetland line on
Okay.
the site.
Is that a report that we'll get access to, or
I mean, they
is that
just-
part of the wetlands?
They didn't, there wasn't anything that they saw
Okay.
and or spoke to in the report.
Is there going to be I'm trying to think from memory, the lot's pretty open already. Is there going to be a lot of trees being taken down or any kind of like disruption really in
No.
habitats?
Not a lot at all. We're really within the development footprint that's already there. It's very limited.
Katie, I'm going to ask for Oxbow's comments on wildlife on the property.
Sure.
Did you get a letter from them?
I'm not sure that you could certainly have a copy of their peer review and what they were asked to do as part of the RFP,
Yep.
as part of information that's already available. But the area has not been flagged for any sort of species, and there's not any vernal pools in the area, or potential vernal pools that they spoke to.
Okay.
And the other site, just as a comment, I think it was a specific species of turtle that was endangered, so that's why they did those Herculean efforts to put up turtle fences. This might just be a normal painted turtle. There are billions of them.
Right, that was in an estimated habitat, so
Right,
that was.
wasn't that the issue? It was a special
I
turtle.
wasn't sitting on that.
Oh.
The
I just said
Riverneck
that's
Road site was in an area of basically flagged and mapped as a habitat. This area is not.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I do have a question, Len. Safe harbor, don't we need 69 units to meet our safe harbor?
I have no idea.
I think we need about, call it 69. I actually
Yeah,
have
I
some
think it's
papers here.
69, so I think a good number for this project is 69. I would say 70. Funny.
What was the way you suggested it?
I think what you're saying is that 69 would make one
Make us happy.
particular member of this board
No.
happy.
Right, it would. Correct.
How did you guys come up with 69 two-bedroom? Like, it is a very large number versus the other, single digits. How did you come up with?
Not sure if No,
Not
the
with-
specific amount of 2 bedrooms,
Yeah.
right?
And I know that in a previous project that there was some input by the housing authority as to needs for affordable units, and I know that those were purchased versus rentals.
Right. And Melissa Robbins, who's here tonight, has met with the Housing Authority on this project and has their input is in what we've proposed to you tonight.
Okay.
But she could speak more to that too at the next hearing.
Okay.
Good points. All right.
Do we have deliverables that we want to
Yeah.
outline?
So, stormwater, traffic, and environment
For the next hearing.
for the next hearing.
Would it be possible to ask if the applicant would consider reducing the number of units?
Sure.
I don't know
I
if
think
69 is the right number, but some number smaller?
Well, I mean, I don't think we've had any technical feedback really back and forth yet to determine
Okay.
the size of the project and why it would need to go smaller.
So what you're saying is you don't want to show your hand just yet?
What I'm saying is we haven't been given a reason to reduce yet.
Okay.
So,
In that though, next week, or next meeting, are they going to include the backup for the bedroom determination in the state's debt?
You can ask them to do that.
Yeah,
That's within your purview.
Yeah, could we have some more information as to the breakdown from the 69 2-bedrooms and how it either goes in with, the housing authority's input or state statutes or breakdowns?
Certainly.
Thank you.
Can I go through a small punch list of other items that I've heard tonight that would be in addition to what we've
Sure.
already provided? So I know that we need to provide the traffic study, which will be coming shortly. We're going to reach out to the LRTA regarding not only their schedule, but also show them the site plan and see if they have any input regards to the site plan and the impact that it might have on the bus stops. Information regarding the number of parking spaces and why 1.7 is a good ratio for multifamily apartment buildings, at least provide you with the backup for that. We're going to look at the height of the buildings in relationship to the slopes and the mansard roofs and look at reducing buildings 1 and 3 specifically in height. We're going to speak a little bit more to the town regarding the playground, including the town planner, the town manager, and also police and fire regarding their feedback, and hopefully we'll be able to report back to you with a little more information at the next meeting. I believe that was it. I believe and the information from Oxbow that was provided to the Conservation Commission as part of the peer review for the wetlands, and the information that was just requested regarding why the unit distribution is the way it is.
Okay, and I would add one more thing. Something that is not anecdotal about the impact on the school system of
Yes.
a project of this scope.
Mhm.
What typically the school system can anticipate for challenges.
Yes.
Okay. Jackie, do you have something else?
Yeah, I'd like to see what it would look like from the street, from the different streets, kind of
Street
getting a
view.
better idea of how it will.
Anything else? Heather?
I'll just make an observation. When we were talking about reducing the number, one of the things I think the local residents are fearful of is the height of the building. That 4th-story is probably the biggest one. If you were to wipe out that 4th story and knock it down to 3, you'd take out 8 units. You'd drop it down to 76. It's just a little bit more than 69. And it would help with the height. Just a consideration for the local townsfolk, so they have a shorter building.
Okay.
Still a Mansa roof, but 3 stories instead of 4. Just a thought.
Okay.
'Cause there's eight units per floor.
Would increase the parking ratio.
It would, and it would knock down the number of children, or potential children.
Is there anything else we could do to be productive? Is there a need for a site walk that might want to be scheduled in the near future?
It's an awful lot of material aggregate on that site. I don't know that a site walk
Well, just
would
to
be-
see,
I don't know.
it's
that it
actually
would-
good to just walk down the surrounding streets to see the view shed because you can see the material. The site itself, I don't know that it's that interesting when you're on it, honestly,
Let's go
but,
through the next meeting and I'll get back to you on
okay.
that.
And I know you also mentioned a traffic peer review. Would you like to hear the full traffic study before we do anything to engage that? Or is the pleasure of the whole board to do that at this time?
Missing enough people. I would
Yeah.
maybe a question from Paul.
Yep. I'm gonna talk to Evan and also Paul.
Okay, very good.
We'll get back to
I
you
just
on that.
wanted to do as much as we could.
With respect to a site walk, I noticed the developer has developed other large projects like this. One of them is in Westford, another 40B. Is this a smaller version of that, where we could see what that project looked like?
No, the project in Westford are townhouses and singles spread over
Okay.
a much larger area, right?
Okay. So there's not one in the ground that would look similar to this to give us a...
No. No, not by
Okay.
this developer. no.
Okay. Peace, thank you.
Okay. All right. What's the next meeting date for this?
But this one would be a month from now. The actual date.
Is that the second week of June, third week of June?
15th? Would be the 15th of June.
June 15th.
So I'll look for a motion to continue this hearing till the 15th of June. Not all at once, please.
I'll make that motion. I'll make it.
We don't want to do it.
I make a motion to June 15th
At 7 PM.
at 7 PM.
Okay, motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Okay.
I don't have any minutes because I did the decisions instead. So,
I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, what is that?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
We're 4 minutes early. I mean, I'm not sure what else to do with all this extra time.
Watch it.
I appreciate it.